Hello quilty friends and welcome back to my channel. My name's Rachel and I make videos about quilting and my creative life, and today is a little bit of an extra bonus type of video because over on my Instagram and TikTok account I've been sharing kind of like daily updates of a quilt that I've been making, and I've decided to amalgamate all of those videos and upload it to YouTube here, because I know that there is a lot of you that aren't over on those platforms and I don't want you to miss out. And sometimes I also forget who I've shown what to and things like that, and you might think, well, where was that video that she's on about? So I thought I would upload them. In the video I do reference a series that I made where I made a bag, so if you enjoy this video let me know in the comments and I'll just re-upload that onto YouTube as well. But this is why you might find that the video is in a different format. It's lengthways rather than widthways, but hopefully you'll still get the gist of it. But it's also why in quite a few of the clips I'm repeating myself. It's because these were all standalone videos that are then being uploaded now into one for you guys, but I hope you enjoy it. So let's roll the footage. I really enjoyed it a couple of weeks ago when we made the quilted bag together. Well, I made it and I just sort of made all the videos talking you through the process. It felt like you was all here with me, so it was really enjoyable, and I think a lot of you enjoyed watching those videos as well. So today I'm going to be starting making a quilt. As some of you might know, I'm a Riley Blake maker, so that means I have access to their new releases of fabrics. I get to choose which lines I want to work with and then make a project of my choice. And I've got a new collection called Love Notes and I've chosen a quilt pattern to go with it. So let me show you the pattern first. So this is the pattern kind of close up, but the cover image has cropped off quite a lot of the pattern. So I'll just give you an overview there. So it's got stars, a chevron and then flying geese, but this pattern is actually just half square triangles. So that's all that it's made up of, and a few border fabrics. The quilt does come out at 87 by 87, so it's quite a big quilt, but from what I can see, it says here a quilt pattern designed for 10-inch squares, and a lot of Missouri style patterns are designed for like pre-cuts and things. So I've got yardage, so I'll need to cut it down into 10-inch squares, which isn't a problem. But today I would like to get all of the half square triangles made. So oh no. I just read a total of 256 half square triangles are needed. I don't know if I'll get that done today, but then essentially from those half square triangles you just make the different elements from it. So I think making the half square triangles is going to be the longest part, so perhaps I won't get it done today. Let me show you the fabric that I've got. I haven't got the full collection. I don't know why, I was stupid. I should have got everything because it is absolutely gorgeous. So I've got this lovely pink floral, very, very tiny prints on it, and I've got the same one in blue. And then it's a very retro collection. It is right up my street, what I like. So a nice blue one with birds on, red with flowers, the same one in pink, the same one in blue. Look at these, gorgeous. I think those prints, there's a background of white, pink and blue. I should have got them all. I'd have a lot more choice. So this is a Laurie Holt basic that Riley Blake carry all the time, and this is B Cross, so it makes a nice kind of like a blender fabric. And then this one, and then this one I've got for the binding, so I've got a yard of this, but that's just amazing, isn't it? I'll see if it says how much binding. Okay, so I need 3/4 of a yard for binding, so I might be able to use some of that in the half square triangles. Yeah, it says it's 2.5-inch binding and 3/4 of a yard. And then I've got this one. This is a background fabric that I don't think, oh yeah, this is Dainty Daisies, so that's my background fabric. So it's got speckles on and some really tiny daisies in a nice soft pink. And then the backing fabric, and I'm actually going to steal a little bit of the backing for the borders. So the quilt has got 2 borders. I don't know if I'll put this outer one on, might not be as thick, but certainly this inner border I need to include that. and then this is my backing, just a nice blue with a little bit of a pattern on. So there we go, that is the fabric. I'm going to press and starch all the fabric and cut them into 10-inch squares. So one package of 10-inch print and one package of 10-inch background squares, and layer cakes are usually like 42, so I'll have to work it out how many I need and I'll just get cutting into the squares. So let me know if you also enjoyed the bag videos. Should I make those style of videos for this whole quilt, bring you along with me, chit chatty, updates, and show you a bit of the sewing? So I'm just doing the pressing. I've pressed about half of them so far. It's not taking too long. They're only half-yard cuts that I've got. I mentioned in a previous video that I have been using spray starch. This is the bottle that I've been using, Dr. Beckman's spray and easy starch and easy iron. But I didn't think the bottle was very good, so I've transferred it into this misting bottle. So I just use that now, and it gives a nice even light coat. I know some people like to do a heavy coat, but I just do a light coat. I'm only dipping my toes into starching at the moment, but it's working well. I do like it. I mean, it's a couple of pumps, but you get a nice mist. I do the front and the back at the same time. And then just use the iron, make sure it's all completely dry. And in terms of the things that people say about starch, that it helps with keeping things accurate, the last quilt that I made, the most accurate quilt I've ever made. I mean, not all the points were matching or anything, but it come out a lot more accurate than normal for less effort. Normally I would have to put a lot of effort in to get the type of results that I did on my last quilt, that I didn't have to put too much effort into it, if that makes sense. And that's what we like, isn't it? We like the same results but for less effort. And I think if I had have took the effort to pin every single intersection, I would have had perfect. But I'm not always about taking the time to pin. Well, 250 half square triangles might have been a little bit optimistic. Just a touch. So here's day 2. So it's the start of day 2 of working on this quilt that's by Missouri Star. It's the Courtship quilt, and I'm doing it in gorgeous fabrics. So it's pinks, blues and reds, the quilt is. So the whole pattern is made up of half square triangles. So my first step was to make 250 half square triangles yesterday. And I've basically sewn them. I just need to cut them out and trim them today. Yeah, so the first, so what you do is you basically make all the half square triangles the same size, and then you assemble them in loads of different ways, and it creates this whole pattern, which I think is really, really clever. But the first part that I need to make is these pinwheels here. In the example picture here, they've got them in the same colour, so I think I'll try and do that, but I'm not sure which one of the fabrics to do that in, because you've got to bear in mind that this border here will be a light blue, so I don't think I want it to be in any of the blues, because I think they might get a little bit lost. So yeah, I've just got 31 of these squares that I need to cut to make the 8 at a time half square triangles, and then just trim a load. So I've got a good few hours ahead of me. Yesterday I was just watching The Handmaid's Tale, so I think I'll put that on and just do a few hours of trimming. I might do a live on here, so if you see me live, come and say hello. I've got a good few hours of trimming and cutting ahead of me. So I have my cutting mat here, but this is also where I have my sewing machine. So I need to get the sewing machine off so I can do all my cutting on the table. When I was setting up my sewing room, this was going to be where I used my sewing machine, And then this table here was going to be where I put my cutting mat. But the cutting mat that I've got on here is warped, so I need to get another one. We've tried people's suggestions to flatten it out, but it just won't flatten. So I'm just going to get a new cutting mat. But I've also got junk piled on there. Can you see? So there's no room to cut. So for now, I just take my sewing machine off and put it on the floor. And that isn't really much of a problem until you want to sew and trim at the same time. I have a little bit of room next to it where I put my rotating one, but it's not always ideal. But we do what we can in small spaces. Better than the dining room. For the trimming of these then, I need to remove all of the pins that I've put in there. And then these are 8 at a time half square triangles. So not only do I need to cut down that line that I drew there, you also have to cut through the centre of the block. There should be a tutorial up on my page coming today on how to do the 8 at a time. So hopefully if you've not done them before, you might find that helpful. Isn't that so good? I've then got to trim these down. These aren't the correct size. Well, you know, with half square triangles, you've got a little bit of extra sometimes, haven't you? So I'll have a bunch of these to trim. 256 to be exact. It's a lot of triangles, isn't it? Oh, it's a nice red one. I always love that like surprise when you open a half square triangle and you get to look at how the fabric pattern is cut with the half squares. But anyway, I'll be getting on with this. I've moved to a better standing position because it was hurting my back too much on the desk, and this is why I bought this cabinet this height. And I've just twisted the cutting mat the other way so you can see that it's warped there. I'll just get a new one. So there we go. And this one will be a lot more comfortable. The only problem I find really with half square triangles, it's not really a problem. You can't cut more than one at a time, you know, you can't lay them up and cut multiple stacks on top of each other because it just wouldn't be accurate. So hopefully this will be somewhat easier on my back. It's a better standing position, isn't it? So fingers crossed my back isn't in bits after all of these. My feet will be aching though, won't they? So I've now managed to do all 256 half square triangles. I've trimmed them, so all I need to do now is give them all a press. I'll just make myself some room. I'll pop that on top of my other tray. These trays are coming in so handy. This is the rest of the fabric for the border and the binding and just what's left over, so I'll move that somewhere safe. And then I have my wall pressing mats, but I also have a piece of plastic underneath protecting the surface because condensation does go through these. So for pressing them, I'm going to press all the seams to the dark side. That'll just help it all stay consistent throughout the pattern. And I'm trying to keep all of these same prints together as well, because there might be some instances in the pattern where I need some together, and I might also need to be able to put some space in between them. So I'm just going to keep them all in separate little piles. I think the 256 half square triangles are going to have to wait for a couple of days. I'll try and do a little bit this afternoon, but I've got the dentist today and I'm just bricking myself. I can't concentrate on anything. I know that there's no point in pulling out the sewing machine. Although last night I did press them, I've finished cutting them, they are all ready to go. So the first thing that I need to do in the pattern is make these pinwheels here. I'll hopefully be able to get those done late afternoon, evening time, depending on what I end up having done at the dentist. It's so hard to get an appointment here in the UK, isn't it? You have to wait for so long. And often they do the checkup and then rebook you another appointment for the treatment. So I don't know what I'll end up getting done today, but the dentist is just horrible, isn't it? So what I've been doing just now is doing some of those hexagons for the hexagon challenge, because tomorrow I'm also going to a quilt show, so there'll be no sewing tomorrow either. But I've just really been doing them just to try and take my mind off it, and I've just laid them out on the desk, so let me show you. So here they are. I've got 15 days prepared. This isn't the final colour placement or anything like that. I think this cat needs to go as a flower centre. That would look better as a centre. And then I've got my pathway done, so then I'll start another hexagon here when I've got enough. I'm not going to join these at the moment. I'm just going to have fun basting them, using loads of colourful fabrics and just getting a little bit of enjoyment from it. So yeah, I'm just going to tinker about with these, put them away, tidy up a little bit, and then I'm going to the dentist in about 20 minutes. So we'll see what sewing gets done, but there'll be no progress on the quilt tomorrow either, because I'm going to the quilt show, which will be good, as long as my tooth isn't hurting. I hope you're all having a little bit of a better day than me. My stomach's in my mouth. I wish you all a wonderful day. So I'm now back from the dentist and ready to get sewing. As I predicted, there was no treatment to be had today. It was a checkup. I've got to have some antibiotics to get rid of the infection in my tooth before I can have any treatment. And it is going to be a root canal, which I've never had one before. So I'll just try and cast that from my mind until next week, because otherwise I'll just get myself worked up about it. So you may have seen my video yesterday about the little plus blocks that I've been making. So I'm going to make 2 of those before I start, and the reason why I do 2 is because it's quite easy to chain piece them all together. So I've got them in this little tin. Easier to chain piece them together than it is to not chain piece them. I'm going to look which colour I want to do based on what I've got on my board, because I'm trying to get some good colour variation throughout that, because I don't want them to all be the same colour. But I guess it's inevitable, isn't it? The colours will work themselves out once I've done enough. But I'll start with a yellow and a purple one. So I'll just lay them out on my extension table. And these are all just using scraps. So I'm going to sew these first, and then I'll get started on the quilt that I'm supposed to be doing. So getting distracted, but it's only a little distraction. Still being somewhat productive, isn't it? So this is what they look like. This one I don't usually put such busy background, so that's a different one for me. But at least I've done it as a nice bold colour, so that stands out. They need ironing. And then this one is just a solid purple one, so I'm going to press them now. And then shall I actually get on with what I'm supposed to be doing? Half square triangles that have given me some type of half square triangle trauma. I'll get on with them, but let's do this first, a bit of something fun. Thank you. You can move over. One warped mat to another warped mat. This one's worse. Look at that. It's like a roller coaster. It's because this one was underneath my pressing mat, but yesterday ironing all those half squares, it's warped it. Look how nice and crisp that comes out. I'll just need to trim it down, of course. The purple one was a touch small, so I couldn't trim a lot off that one. I've probably done the seams a little bit too big. And then this one, I could trim a little bit off. They're wonky, and I think that adds a nice little bit of character to them, doesn't it? Welcome back to day 4 of making a quilt. So I'm making the courtship quilt, which is a pattern from Missouri Star, and I am using the cutest fabric that is due to come out in May by Riley Blake, and this is called Love Notes. So I've just got a small selection of the fabrics, and these are the colours that I've got. So I've got pinks, blues and reds. This one here is a basic from Laurie Holt called Bee Cross, and the background is called Dainty Daisies, and that's one of the basic range from Riley Blake, and it's like a really soft pink colour. This is my fabric selection, so I've got a blue for the backing and some borders that are within this quilt, and then this gorgeous blue and red binding. It's like a, what do you call that? It's like a plaid, and that'll make a really nice binding, I think. So I've made all of the half square triangles for the pattern. Now the next step in the pattern is to create 4 pinwheel blocks and then some chevron blocks. So that will be making this border along here. So the pinwheels here, I need to make those all 4 the same colours with 4 blocks in each. So I think I've decided that I will use this. I'm going to use this colour selection. I've got plenty of it, so hopefully I'll still have enough to then include it elsewhere in the quilt. So let's have a look. So you just put 4 of them together. Let me get a board and I'll show you. So you just put 4 together like this. On that. To go like that, yeah. That looks quite nice, doesn't it? So I'm just going to sew those together. So I need 4 sets of them. So what I like to do when I've got to make a certain number of something, I just lay them over the top of each other how many times I need. So I need 4 of those. So I'm going to put 4 straight over the top of each other. And I'll repeat that for all of those, and then I can just pick them up and sew it. And you haven't got to rummage around looking for the block you need or the orientation. Just stack them up, and there you go. Those are going to be my first blocks, so let's get making. And I've still got a good enough amount to use in the rest of the quilt, but it's a similar colour to everything else, so even if I did run out, it wouldn't have made a huge difference. So here's my block. I've sewn this seam here together, and I just need to sew this seam. But I just wanted to show you on these top ones, I've pressed the seam underneath to the one side. So this one's going this way, and then this seam is going in the opposite direction, so that when I put them both together, there's one seam going this way and one seam going that way, so that when they're together they nest. That's called nesting. So it'll nest nicely and it will reduce the bulk on the back, because if I had one going that way, I'm going to have really bulky seams on this side. So one is going one way and one's going the other. And you do have a lot of seams coming together here with the half square triangles, so they're always going to be bulky. So anything you can do just to balance them out will help. People do always ask, how do I keep my space so tidy? Well, I don't. Sometimes it looks like this. And this space has always looked like this since I moved into this room. I don't know why. I just have stuff piled up. But when I'm working, this is how I just roll. Small space, stuff piled up, boxes, boards, trays, anything I can just to keep it contained. Even my scrap bin is overflowing, and it's overflowing with non-scraps. Okay, well, they're done, and I'm starting to think that was the little warm-up, because you only needed to make 4 of those. Let me check the size, just to see, do I need to trim them down at this stage? So it says the finished block should be 8.5 inch. Which it pretty much is, so I don't think I'm going to bother trimming those down. I think I've done enough trimming with the half square triangles. So that's the pinwheel blocks. Now we need to make these chevron blocks. I think I need another tray for all these blocks, so I've got to make 16 of these. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I've got 9 colours, so I need to do 2 of most of them. So what about if I leave the ones out that I've done the pinwheel? Then I've got 8 and I can make 2 of each. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, I can do 2 of each then, hopefully. So for this one, the chevron, I've never actually done this shape. So we put them together like that. So it goes like that, and then 2 more underneath. I like that. So there we go. So 16 of those. So I'm going to do another 2 more in, 1 more in this colour. I'll just lay it on top. I'm going to try and do all 16 of these today, and I think that is like pretty much my limit of where I'll be. So it doesn't always get done super quick. Some days I spend hours and hours, but today when I've been to the dentist, I'm not feeling great. I don't want to be doing loads. I've got toothache. That's the next block, and then there's only one other block. No, there's 2 other blocks to do after that, so it should be fairly plain sailing with any luck. I'm pretty sure it's like week 2 now. It's not days, it's going into weeks. So let me give you a bit of an update, because I think the last video that I made, I was showing you that I need to make these chevrons. So I've now made all of the chevrons. It wasn't many that you needed to make. I only needed to make 16, and the chevrons go here around the stars. So I've made all of those. So those are my chevrons. I've got a good variety of colours, I think. So I've got 16 of those. I've made my 4 pinwheels, and I made them all in the same colourway. So those go in the corners. So I've still got a bunch of half square triangles left. I think this pattern had like 200. Did it have 200? How many did it have? Yes, 256. It's been so long, I've put it aside and I haven't done anything with it. But now I need to make the stars, and look at it. So there's only 4 stars that I need to make, and I'm just going to make them scrappy like this, just with different fabrics in different places. So that's what I'm going to do today. So I've laid one out. I'm just going to make them one at a time, and I'm going to chain piece this together. I did run out of my background fabric, which is this one here. I think the background fabric is called Dainty Daisy, and it's got a very fine print on it. So I've had to mix through a little bit of Bee Cross by Laurie Holt. It's still Riley Blake, and it still goes really nicely. So I think I've got like 8 of those, and they just go in the corner of the star. Can you even see there where they are? I don't really think you can. So I'm going to get on with sewing that, and I'll come back and give you an update, and I'll show you all 4 of the stars. And thank you for bearing with me. I hope you didn't forget about the quilt. I certainly didn't. I just knew that I needed a little bit of a break. I had some other work things to be doing, but it's now time to have some fun and get back to it. So I've now sewn the star, but it's called webbing. So what you do is you chain piece all of this strip together, and then when you finish chain piecing, you don't cut it apart, you leave it like that. You just open it out, and then you attach the next row, and you attach all the way down again, leaving all of the little threads in between, because that will help this not come out of order. So all you do is, I'll need to press it first, but you just lay them right sides together. You'll nest the seams, and then just sew the first seam, open that out, fold this one down, and then sew along the next one, and just keep repeating. And this way you're not having to lay it back out, pick it back up, get the right orientation. It is all there, just like this. And you can actually sew a whole quilt together like this. It's called webbing. There's a lady on YouTube called Kate at the Last Homely House, and she has excellent tutorial on how to do this, and it's what I do with every quilt top. So I'm going to press it, get it together, So I'm going to press it and get it all joined together, and then it'll be another star, and then I'll only have 3 more to do, and that's the middle done, because these are quite big stars, aren't they, really? I think it finishes about 12-inch, the inside stars, so it should come together fairly quick. I say that, but I've left it on the shelf for like 5 days. So I've done the centre stars, so I've done 4 of those, and what I now need to do is join those together, and I'll have the centre bit done. Then you add a border of these chevrons all the way around, which I've made, so I'll be able to attach those as well. So I'm going to join the 4 squares together, but I need to make sure that there aren't any clashing prints next to each other, so I'm going to kind of like lay them out. It is, you know, I've done the placement random, but I don't want the same colours to be next to each other, if I can help it. So those two. And they are quite big blocks. Let me check the pattern. So these are 16.5-inch blocks, so they are quite big. So I'm just going to make sure I nest the seams as best as I can, because I do like it when my points match. It's not always possible, but I do try where I can. Yay! So I've got 2 stars next to each other. If I was able to adapt the pattern, I would have put a thin strip of fabric in between them, just to give the stars a little bit of definition between the 2. But you can't really do that, because then it'll have a knock-on effect to the border that goes next to it, so couldn't really do that. So we'll just go with it and see how it looks. This is going to be a perfect like baby quilt, and there are going to be more flashes of red throughout the quilt, so I think the red will blend in. So that is the very centre, and that is a really good size. That would be a good baby quilt just on its own, but we're not stopping there. So this is the centre of the star. Let me step back a little bit. So that's the centre of the quilt. So all around here now it needs to go the chevrons, and do the chevrons go away, I think. So they go up like that all the way across. So I'm going to go ahead and attach those and get them joined to the quilt, and then perhaps I'll come back and give you an update, because it's one of those where it's like hard to lay out at this point. It's getting a little bit big, but this is a good size in itself, isn't it? I really like it. The colours aren't too bold. The colours are very much like baby girl colours, so I think I'll have to give this to a little girl. We'll see how it comes out in the end, and will I want to keep it for myself or give it to a little girl? We'll see. I would really like to finish this quilt top today, so let's see if I can get it done. So I've got the inner stars done, the outer chevron. Next there's a solid border, so that's in like a really light blue that matches these blues. A little border, and then we've got a border of flying geese and another solid border. I think I'll be able to get it done. I've got the flying geese made, so it should be fairly easy, but when you're adding borders you've got to measure it and all that, and I need to get myself in the mental space for doing that. So this is what I have left to do. These flying geese, that dark blue border, and then there's another border after it, and then it'll be done, and then I'll be able to sandwich the quilt together and get it quilted. Now the quilt actually measures 87 by 87, which is essentially going to be wider than joining 2 widths of fabrics together, because you need that little bit of extra, don't you, on the background. So in the actual pattern there's a white border and then the blue border. So that white border there just after the flying geese, I'm going to leave that off, because if you look here on that pattern, that's the only, this white border here after the flying geese, that's the only time that there's space in between the blocks. So I think that looks a little bit weird, so I'm just going to leave that off, and that'll probably save me like 4 inches. Fingers crossed. So let me show you where I am, and I'll come back and do another video, hopefully showing you that the quilt top's finished. So this is my progress. It's already quite big. This is going to be a baby quilt, so I could stop here and it would be perfect to do as a baby quilt. I don't know whether I should just do that. But then I've got all these half square triangles left over. I don't know. Should I stop at this point? This could be big enough because I'm also thinking that... so I'm in two minds now as to whether or not to just make this complete and just say that it's done. Put a border on the edge, which I think is like 2 or 3 inches. And just have this as done. I know I've got a ton of half square triangles left, but I could do something else with those. Now my reason for saying this is because this is definitely a baby quilt, isn't it? It's definitely a quilt for a little girl. The only girl that we've got in the family that this would be suitable for, she's 18 months old, so she'll be going into a big girl bed soon, I imagine. And a quilt that is 87-inch square, which is over 2 meters, is just too big for a little girl, isn't it? And that's the only person that I could give this quilt to. So I think I might stop here. Shall I go get the measuring tape and measure how big the quilt is? Because essentially it would be this centre bit, but then I have got all these flying geese. How many flying geese have I got left? I could do something else with the flying geese, but then what would I do with that project? I guess it's what do I do with leftover flying geese, or what do I do with a 2 meter quilt? Because that's just too big to give to a little girl, because that's like the size of a double duvet. And I imagine that when she goes into her big girl bed, it's just going to be like a single probably. So the quilt at this point should measure approximately 55 inches. I think that's a good size, do you? Shall I just do it? Get it done, get it sandwiched. I think I'm going to, because otherwise I'm going to have a large quilt. I'm going to be short on the backing fabric, because like I said, the backing fabric just might not be big enough. I do feel like I might be cheating a little bit, but oh well. And it would also make my job a little bit easier. So this is a sample quilt that I'm making for Riley Blake. This is a quilt that I'm making to be featured on the Riley Blake blog, where they show new and upcoming fabrics and things. So of course there's always deadlines with that, isn't there? So this could make things a little bit easier. So I did it. I've just added the blue border on and I'm going to call it finished. It's going to finish at over 60 inch, which I think is a really good size for any quilt, and it would definitely be more suitable to a child than a 2 meter quilt, and it's going to be easier for me. So I'm just ironing my border, and then I'll give you a look what it looks like with the border. Let me iron the whole thing actually. We'll get the whole quilt top ironed and it'll look fresh. I've been thinking about the quilting, and I think I'm just going to do straight line quilting on the machine, and then I'm going to go back in and add some hand quilted details just to give a nice pop. And that's just because the stars and things, the whole colour scheme is quite a soft one, and I want the pattern to stand out a little bit more, so I'll use a nice contrasting thread, and I think I'll just highlight around the edge of the stars and things. Well, what do you think? The quilt is up behind me. I've now got myself a place to hang my completed quilts in progress in my sewing room, so let me show you. Doesn't it look so pretty, so effective hanging there? And I'm so glad that I've got to see it from this view, because when you make a quilt and you are so up close to it, you can't see it from a distance, and I'm really happy with this. Obviously it was supposed to have the extra row of the flying geese all the way around 4 edges, but that would have made it so much larger. This is the size of this intended border, and then there would be 3 more borders on it, so it would be all the way down to the floor. It would just be too big for the intended recipient. So don't you think that just looks really nice? It's going to look so good quilted. I've got the backing all pressed and joined together. When you're joining your backing, ideally you want to join it with a generous seam. I use the salvages just to help keep the seam straight, and then you want to press the seams open just to reduce the bulk on the back. And this is the backing fabric. It's the same fabric that I've used for the border, so it's quite nice. And I also have the binding cut as well, so that's 3-inch binding. I do like a little bit of extra on my bindings. Well, the quilt is now completely finished and on time for the work deadline, so that's really good. So here is that binding print. Isn't that just beautiful? I really like that. I've gotten into like plaids and stripes for bindings. I think it really does add a little bit extra to the quilt, doesn't it? So what I also did, I think I said this in one of the videos, is I added some hand quilting details. Let me get it up to show you. I outlined the star in like a baby pinky coloured thread, and I just hand quilted it all the way around, and I did that around all of the 4 stars that are in the middle. You'll probably be able to see the quilting stitches a little bit better on the back. Can you see that? So there we go. So you can see the quilting quite well on the back. It adds a nice little bit of texture, doesn't it? So that is all complete now. So I just need to take a few photos of it and then write my blog post for the Riley Bake blog, and it will all be up until next month, and there'll be another quilt to make. I'm going to fold this nicely and give this as a gift.